Coming up on Philosophy Talk,
The surf is up. The sun is out.
summer is on.
It's our 4th annual summer reading list.
Do you have a book?
Yes, I have. I took one with me this morning.
What is it?
The Odyssey by Homer.
We're changing the order we do things. Read to me first, kid. Then we make love.
The best thing about summer? Catching up on books you've always meant to read.
What book should thoughtful people be reading this summer?
Our 4th annual summer reading list. Coming up on Philosophy Talk.
After the news.
Welcome to Philosophy Talk, the program that questions everything.
Except your intelligence. I'm John Perry.
And I'm Ken Taylor. We're coming to you from the studios of KALW San Francisco.
Continuing conversations that began at Philosopher's Corner on the Stanford campus.
Today, it's our 4th annual summer reading list.
Ken, I still haven't finished all the reading I planned to do last summer.
I know the feeling, John. Yeah, summer always seems like a long stretch of time when I'm planning for it. But whenever I look back on it, it's always, where did summer go? But hey, hope springs eternal, right? This summer, I will get through that summer reading list.
Let's face it, Ken, the book is rapidly becoming a thing of the past anyway. Eventually, the only place you're going to find a book is in a museum.
Oh, John, I don't think that books will ever disappear. As long as there are stories to be told, arguments to be made, scandals to be exposed, and historical events to be interpreted and analyzed, there will be books to be written, and there will be people to write them. Some things just can't be said in blogs or tweets or YouTube videos or even in feature-length films.
Well, I didn't say people will stop writing books. What is disappearing is the book itself, the kind of thing you hold in your hand and put on the shelf. The book is a tangible, physical thing that you can drop in the bathtub and spill coffee on. That's what it's on. It's on its way out. As the book goes, so goes all the great physical storehouses of books. Eventually, instead of libraries, you'll just have the whole world of books right at your fingertips. You won't need to lug around a huge 3-volume edition of Proust all summer in order not to get around to reading it. You can just not read it on your laptop or your iPod or that fancy new device from Amazon.
The Kindle you're talking about.
Yeah, the Kindle. You'll be able to get access to any book, anywhere, anytime. And you won't need to kill a single tree to do it.
Gosh, John, that's a depressing thought.
You got something against trees?
No. I love trees, but I love books too. I mean, I love tangible, physical books. I love the feel of a book in my hand, the sound of pages turning, the smell of old books lovingly bound. And I love to browse in bookstores. You know, when I was young, my wife and I, before my life became way too complicated, my wife and I used to spend hours and hours just hanging out in bookstores. It was one of my favorite pastimes. We used to judge a city or a neighborhood partly by the quality of the bookstores they contained. I admit that now I mostly buy my books online, but you know, I really don't feel good about that.
Well, Ken, you surprise me. You're usually such a gung-ho gadget guy. Now you sound like a sentimental Luddite. Maybe technology will actually save the book, not the book as a concrete, physical, page-turning object, but the book conceived of as a way of presenting ideas.
How would that work? I don't follow you.
Well, just consider newspapers.
Well, newspapers really are disappearing, faster even than the book.
Yeah, but newspapers are disappearing, but they're reappearing in a new digital form. They're moving online. And online newspapers are way more engaging than printed newspapers. An online newspaper gives you not just a static story, but video and real-time blogging. Stories can be updated constantly. Readers can interact not just with the author, but with each other. With an old-fashioned print version of the newspaper, you get none of that.
And you think that something similar might eventually happen with books?
Oh, why not? It's so exciting to think about.
Well, but because books are different, John. Books are meant to be held, to be curled up with by the fireplace. I can't really imagine curling up by the fireplace with my laptop or my iPod or a Kindle.
You're really a tree assassin, Ken. You're burning them in the fireplace while reading books made out of them. My goodness, you're a man of the past. But at least we agree on this much. The kind of ideas that drive people to write books will always be around, and via one platform or another, those ideas will reach the reading public. So let's not worry about the exact platform our summer reading will take. Whether you go to the beach with your Kindle and get sand in the mechanism, or go to the beach with a book and drop it in the ocean. Whatever form it takes, let's get a summer reading list together. It's not the book, but books.
Yeah, whether it's iPod or Kindle or Google Books or the good old-fashioned books that's your thing, let's compile a summer reading list together.
And to help us do that, we'll be joined in a little bit by Christopher Mia, manager of Pendragon Books in Oakland, California.
And we want our listeners to join in, too. Do you have some good summer reading recommendations? The number to call is 1-800-525-9917. That's 1-800-525-9917.
But first, our roving philosophical reporter, Rena Palta, meets some people involved in the reinvention of books. She files this report.
The Sanchez Annex is a writers' collective located in San Francisco's Castro district.
But I did my book as an all-black cover.
Inside, two local authors, Shana Mahaffey and Kemble Scott, sit thumbing through advance copies of Mahaffey's upcoming book. Sounds Like Crazy has a bright yellow cover, binding, and pages cut to a standard paperback size. It's the product of editing, copy editing, a trip to the publisher's design team, and countless meetings with sales reps and marketers.
The publishing process takes so long. This book was actually sold a year ago, and it still won't be released until October, so it takes more than a year.
For as long as most of us remember, this is how stories got from a writer's head to the reader. That's changing, and Kemble Scott, the other writer in the room, is one of a growing movement of authors finding other ways to get their books out. Scott's first novel, Soma, was released in 2007 by a New York publisher.
It made the bestsellers list, which was really quite a lovely surprise.
Coming off that success, Scott wanted to push the bar for his second book.
I'm doing things completely differently, and I'm actually releasing the first edition as an electronic book, and that novel is called The Sower.
In May 2009, The Sower came out on a new website called Scribd. Scribd is a self-publishing marketplace for books, magazine-style articles, poems, really any sort of written work.
And this is kind of a first since Gutenberg, because from the very first time that books have been printed and published, you needed somebody else's permission in order to get your work out in book form. So what these people have done is said, we're going to get rid of that permission process. We're going to remove the barriers between the writer and reader and let it go directly.
For an already successful author like Kemble Scott, the electronic medium offers something else: timeliness. The Sower is set in the present day and feeds off some of the political themes of the past few years.
The villains in this book are people who we know from the news right now. There's somebody who looks an awful lot like Rick Warren, the controversial pastor, and then there's a character who is a certain right-wing Republican president of the United States.
Scott was altering the text until the final day before the book's release, adding references to British singer Susan Boyle and swine flu.
I can do alternative endings. I can do all sorts of funny things that you couldn't do with a print book because it's fixed in time.
Across town, tech guru Andy Vogt has worked on web-based products with companies like MTV and NASA. He's obsessed with electronic publishing and has blogged extensively on the ins and outs of Amazon's Kindle. Vogt says the current generation of ebooks hasn't even scratched the surface of electronic publishing's potential.
Because the book as we read them now, they're these linear things with page numbers and they move in a fairly organized fashion. But it seems like there's a lot of potential for different kinds of narrative and more interaction and more room to redefine what a book is.
As Vogt sees it, a book in digital form can make use of all the tools that websites use, like hypertext you can click on or personal data you can feed into the text to produce an altered story.
For me, I think there's a lot of potential for that in education, the ability to target a narrative towards, to customize a narrative a little bit for individual readers, but still deliver the same basic message to an entire classroom of children, has a lot of potential.
So if there's no format or process to define the medium, what happens to the very idea of a book?
It's different. That's for sure. It's not all going to be great, but you are going to get more writers. You're going to get more people publishing. The model will change. I mean, the universe sorts itself out.
For Philosophy Talk, I'm Rena Palta.
I'm John Perry. With me is Ken Taylor.
And our guest is Christopher Mia. He's manager of Pendragon Books in Oakland, California. Christopher, welcome to Philosophy Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Christopher, earlier Ken said he used to judge the quality of a town or a neighborhood partly by the quality of its bookstores. I mean, the same for me. In this age of the internet, though, are bookstores still capable of defining a town or a neighborhood?
I think clearly they are. It's getting harder and harder to do, of course, but we always try to keep a bookstore, our bookstore open and available to people, and we always do listen to our customers to listen to what they want to see in our store.
That's good. I remember my delight when we moved to Palo Alto 40 or so years ago to find Kepler's, the Menlo Park bookstore. Independent bookstores, the backbone of any good town or neighborhood. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
I'm not surprised. Okay. In lots of bookstores, philosophy is shelved with metaphysics and the occult. And even if it's not, it gets precious little shelf space. What about Pendragon? Don't tell me philosophy is just mixed in with weird books there.
We do have a section just for philosophy by itself.
Cool.
Philosophy, literary criticism, linguistics.
Good. So it's a respectable section.
Is it a large section, small section, a deep section?
I think probably an average section. In our store, it's mostly a used bookstore, and we have mostly a used book section as far as philosophy is concerned.
I see. So, John, look, let's give Christopher some advice. Let's help him improve his philosophy section. If there were just one or two, like, really major philosophy books, you'd say, Christopher, stock these, and your collection will go up and stand.
Well, my totally objective view is the backbone of any good philosophy collection is David Hume and Bertrand Russell. Particularly Russell's Problems of Philosophy, particularly the Oxford University Press with the wonderful introduction by me.
Yeah, so that's Bertrand. You said David Hume. So if we're recommending summer reading so obviously you'd recommend to our listeners.
Yeah.
Russell. But what of Hume? I know you love Hume.
Yes, for summer reading, going to the beach, you don't want a big tome by Hegel or Kant. Those are great things to read, but you want a short book by Russell like his Problems of Philosophy or Hume's Inquiry into Human Understanding or Inquiry into Morals. Lots of good short philosophy books, and I'm sure that the Christopher's bookstore is just stocked with new and used copies of them.
So you got any from your own collection, anything that your customers are buying in the philosophy section in particular, anything that stands out at all?
Well, as far as philosophy goes, I mean, the classics are always big sellers for us, Kierkegaard and Kant and so forth. But from our new section, we have an interesting book called The Book of Dead Philosophers.
Oh, yeah?
By Simon Critchley.
Oh, yeah. So it's like a survey of...
it's a compendium of hundreds of philosophers, how they lived, but more importantly, how they died.
And Simon, he's trying to write for a wider audience, right? So
right. This is for the general public.
Right. There's from my... intended philosophy, my summer reading of philosophy. Mostly this summer I'm going to be writing and giving lectures and stuff, but there's a book that I've just recently come across, and I think we should do a show about it. And so this is on my reading list because I want us to do a show about it. There's a book by a man named Bob Brecker called Torture and the Ticking Time Bomb. And he argues in that book, John, that most people who favor torture because of the ticking time bomb. If a ticking time bomb was about to go off and the only way to get information was torture this guy, would you do it? He says most people argue on utilitarian grounds that you should. And he says he's not a utilitarian, but he's going to show you that even if you're utilitarian, you should not endorse torture.
Well, good for him. I don't think anybody should endorse torture. Now, if you're a utilitarian, that's slightly different than the question whether anyone should torture. But since we're talking about books, not utilitarianism, we won't dig too deeply into that.
That's a book that probes the arguments for and against torture in the ticking time bomb case, using utilitarian stuff.
And speaking of good short books to read on the beach, Mill's Utilitarianism. Many good used copies of that in Christopher's bookstore, too.
Yes, I'm sure.
Certain.
That's a very fine book and a very good read. Anything by Mill is a good read, actually. But I'll tell you, you're listening to Philosophy Talk. Today, we're compiling a summer reading list.
We'd love to have your help. We've started out with a few recommendations from our guests, Christopher Mia of Pendragon Books, and a few from Ken. We also want to hear from you. What will you read this summer? What have you already read that you'd recommend to others? We'll start with fiction. Join us by calling 1-800-525-9917. That's 1-800-525-9917. You can email us at comments@philosophytalk.org.
Fiction, philosophy, and summer fun. Plus your calls and emails when Philosophy Talk continues.
Because nobody there got shot. One day I read a book I can't remember when, but one of these days I'm gonna do it again, yes sir. One of these days I'm gonna do it again.
It is the summer reading list edition of Philosophy Talk. I'm John Perry.
And I'm Ken Taylor. We want your help. What are the most amazing philosophical reads you've ever experienced? What book or books of fiction are you dying to read again? If you were going to read only one philosophically rich book this summer, what would it be? Share your thoughts with us and with our other listeners about great fiction.
We have a toll-free number. That's 1-800-525-9917. 1-800-525-9917. You can also email us at comments@philosophytalk.org. Our guest is Christopher Mia from Pendragon Books in Oakland, California.
So, Christopher, for most people, let's admit it, summer is probably more of a time for reading novels than for reading abstract tomes of philosophy, especially by the likes of Kant or Hegel, two of my favorite philosophers, but not good reads. But suppose someone wanted to kill two birds with one stone. They wanted good philosophy and good fiction. What philosophically interesting works of fiction would you recommend to such a person?
Well, there's a brand new book, actually, by one of my favorite authors, Jeff Dyer, which is called Jeff in Venice, Death in Varanasi.
Say that title again?
Jeff in Venice, Death in Varanasi.
Yeah, so what's this book about?
Well, it's actually two novellas that are tied together by, in the first part, a disillusioned journalist on assignment in Venice, where he, based loosely on the Thomas Mann, Death in Venice. Mm-hmm. And then the second novel featuring an unnamed narrator who may or may not be the same person.
Okay, so this kind of seems like it has a complicated literary conceit there, right, going on there.
It is very sort of metaphysical in its way, and it may be the same story told twice.
So, what are the themes? And what's it about? I
think it's more or less about identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about who we are, what sort of events make us who we are.
Oh, that's a great theme for fiction, identity. And lots of fiction is about that stuff. John, you got some things on your summer reading list?
Yeah, I want to check out when we did our movie awards. The top thing was The Reader. The movie The Reader. Now, the guy who wrote The Reader, Bernard Schlink, first I want to say, if you like the movie, you'll like the book. And there's things that were missing in the movie, and most particularly, one of the characters that you just don't see much in the movie plays a more major role in the book, and he is a philosophy professor.
Oh, that's the father, right?
Well, I wasn't going to give that away, but now that you have, and his thoughts actually explain some of the motivations of the reader in the book.
I haven't actually read The Reader, so I need to read The Reader. I've seen The Reader, but I haven't read The Reader.
Are you still selling copies of The Reader over at Pendragon?
We are still selling copies of The Reader. It's doing well.
And the author, Bernard Schlink, also has a detective novel series. And it's kind of interesting, too, particularly for the American reader. He's, of course, a German, and the detective is, first of all, an old guy, older even than me. And he's a former Nazi prosecutor, so he doesn't have that kind of sympathy for your typical American reader. But they're pretty good novels. I read one, the guy's name is Gerhard Self. So it's philosophical. And I read one called Self's Deception, and there's a couple of others. So
that sounds good. We're going to put all these recommendations up on our webpage, so you don't have to be busily writing them down as this conversation flows. But you're listening to Philosophy Talk. We're compiling a summer reading list with the help of our guest, Christopher Mia from Pendragon Books, and we also like your help. Call in at 1-800-525-9917. That's 1-800-525-9917. And we've got a caller on the line now, David in Sausalito. David, welcome to Philosophy Talk, and tell us your recommendation.
I wanted, to recommend Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
That's a good read from a long time ago. You're rereading that or reading it for the first time?
No, I read it many years ago, and it literally changed my life. It caused me to set out on a voyage to India, and
not on a motorcycle.
Stimulated my thinking.
Did you go on a motorcycle?
No.
Tell us some of the ways in which it stimulated your thinking.
Well, it strongly hinted that the quality of unitive consciousness cannot be available within Western civilization. The thesis of the book essentially is that Socrates killed unitive experience.
Yeah, right.
So that's, as I remember, by Robert Pirsig, Pirsig. Yeah, it's a good book. I read it a long time ago. A guy goes from, I don't know, there's a good representation of the University of Chicago philosophy department back in the day.
Yeah.
That I thought was rather intriguing. And the guy ends up in San Francisco. He drives his motorcycle with his son on his back. He thinks all of his son has a lot of problems. It turns out most of the problems are his.
No, thanks for.
I would just add to that. There's a follow-up book, Lila, and there's a whole body of work associated with this called MOD, which I haven't been involved with for a while, but it takes a fictional approach and relates philosophy to psychology to the study of consciousness, which has become a very big thing in recent decades.
Yeah, David, that's right. Thanks a lot for the call. Christopher, are people still buying that book? I mean, I read that book ages ago, just as I was about to head off to the University of Chicago.
Oh, definitely, people are still buying that book.
Yeah? So,
yeah, and the ideas are still valid.
So it's in like its 100th printing or something?
At least. Of the hundreds of copies, we see copies all the time.
And you also learned something about motorcycles.
So 1-800-525-9917. That's 1-800-525-9917. We'd love to have your additions to this, your suggestions. And we've got a caller on the line now. That's Aaron in Sunnyvale. Welcome to Philosophy Talk, Aaron.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, well, you're welcome. So what's your suggestion?
I really want to recommend a novel called Ishmael, and it was written by Daniel Quinn.
Uh-huh. So Christopher's nodding his head, and John, I know you've tell us.
I like the book Ishmael. Ishmael is tell me if I've got this right. Ishmael's an ape, or something from that
gorilla.
family of animals who speaks English and has a very low view of the human race and the terrible impact it's had on the earth.
So tell us why you like this book so much, Aaron, and why we should read it.
Well, I like it because I feel that there's a lot of ethnocentrism as well as like speciocentrism in Western culture, and I feel like it really evaluates those notions and questions like the fundamental belief that humans are the ultimate of species.
So you think this is humans aren't so good for the world, told from a victim of humanity's rapaciousness kind of thing.
Ishmael's view is that agriculture was where it all went wrong.
Okay, but let me ask you a question, guys. It sounds like a ideologically interesting book, but is it a good novel? I mean, does it tell a good story?
Yeah, it reads well.
It does. It really does. And it takes place in Socratic style of dialogue. So the question and the answering and questioning. And it's just amazing. It too changed my life.
Wow. Okay, so this sounds like a good recommendation.
Yeah, I do want to say Daniel Quinn, the author, is like me from Nebraska, so he knows all about agriculture from a first-person point of view. And he has also written a couple of sequels. I think one is called My Ishmael, and he's a very interesting guy.
So tell us, are these books selling have you read this? Are these books selling? What do you
These
think?
are books that we definitely do sell as well. Yeah, they're still selling as well as lots of classics like these.
So how old is this book, Ishmael? I don't.
15, 20 years?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, gosh, and I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yes, it's been a cult undergraduate book for a long time. We have a couple of emails. One is a reaction to what Ken was saying, or what I was saying, enthusiastic about the Kindle. She says she's seen a wonderful cartoons picture of a future Earth, alien in a spacesuit, sitting on top of acres of cassettes, DVDs, tapes, CDs, reading a book. Without its support technology, the Kindle and its ilk are useless. And then we have another email. This is from Jane in San Jose, and she says, I recently read the play No Exit by Jean-Paul Sartre. It's a short play, easy to read, but deeply thought-provoking and disturbing. Tackles human relationships, metaphysics, eternity, and meaning. Now, Sartre wrote a lot of stuff, and some of it's too long to take to the beach, like Being and Nothingness. But some of it, like 3 plays, including No Exit. There's some good additions to that. Existentialism is a humanism. You can get Walter Kaufman's edition of Existentialism from Somebody to Sartre. Good stuff for the beach. Wouldn't you agree, Christopher? You have all those, I'm sure.
We do. No Exit still does very well.
We've got lots of callers in the line. Next is John in Oakland. Welcome to Philosophy Talk, John.
Glad to be here. So I was calling to recommend a fictional book with a wonderful just philosophical base to it, the Illuminati trilogy of books by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson that came out in the early 70s. And I recommend them because, first, they're a great summer read because they're this wonderful, silly pastiche of all these genres, science fiction and noir and realism and all these things just mashed together in one just very entertaining, captivating book, great for the beach. But there's this whole wonderful underlying message that builds up to the fact that what we think of as reality is so much in our heads, and that it's a creation partly from what we are told to believe or what we think we observe, and that the whole point of the book is realizing how much of that is just our creation and how much we can actually control how we perceive the world, whether we do it consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah, that's a theme in lots of good fiction, science fiction, fantasy. Just repeat the name of that book because I lost it for a second.
It's the book is called the Illuminati Trilogy. You could usually find it 3 books in one volume, and the authors are Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea.
Okay, thanks so much for that recommendation. We've got an old friend of Philosophy Talk on the line now. That's Jeff Nunberg.
Jeff Nunberg has been a frequent guest on Philosophy Talk. He's a University of California, Berkeley professor. He's a linguist whose work appears regularly on NPR's Fresh Air and also in the New York Times. Jeff, what's your summer reading recommendation?
I've got a new book by Keith Thomas, the British historian, that I just started, called The Ends of Life, Roads to Fulfillment in Early Modern England. And what it really is a history of the meaning of life.
Oh, wow.
A wonderful topic where he looks at the way in which the idea of the meaning of the life was transformed in early modern England from an idea of felicity to an idea of happiness.
Is it like a survey of ideas about it, or of people's, like philosophical ideas?
Philosophical, literary. His books are always this extraordinary. As he reads, you have the sense of somebody who reads everything, right, and just makes all these puts it all in little Post-its, and then dumps it into a book, or organizes and dumps it into a book. But it's wonderfully suggestive, and the whole idea that the notion of the meaning of the life is something that changes historically, and that you can study historically is fascinating.
No, that's utterly fascinating, right? It's utterly fascinating. Tell me the title and the author again.
Keith Thomas, a very famous British historian, The Ends of Life.
Okay, that's a great suggestion. Do you have any other, or is that your suggestion?
Well, I've got another book. It just arrived in the mail. One of the interesting things one of the wonderful things about the Internet, I don't know where they're getting these from, but you're starting to see all these inexpensive and nicely made reprints done, usually by scanning, of books that were out of copyright, Victorian books and so on and so forth, or books from the up to the beginning of copyright, was it 75 or whatever many years it is now. And there's a novel I read a long time ago, not really a novel, but a fiction, let me call it, that I read a very long time ago that I'd lost. It was a book by Percy Lubbock, the literary critic, friend of James,
right.
Inventor, I think, of the notion of point of view, or certainly explorer of that in the novel. But he wrote a little book called Roman Pictures, and I remember reading this when I lived in Rome. And it's a first-person narrative that recounts a man wandering in Rome from one Anglophone to another, the British priest, the old English ladies who are somehow connected with the black aristocracy, the Vatican aristocracy, the aesthete who's gone to Rome to write poetry, and so on. And it's a wonderful satiric send-up of a certain slice of British society at I guess in the 1920s it would be, which as I say, I read then and set against the Roman background, loved, and just for some reason dug it out, and there it was, an outfit called Turtle Point Press.
Wow.
Has printed it as what they call an on-demand book.
Because it's now in the public domain, I take it, right?
It's in the public domain, and an on-demand book means you call in for it, and they take it to their digital printer and knock off a copy, put it in a decent cover, and send it off.
Well, that's really cool. It's both cool. The book, it's cool, but the phenomenon of being able to get these out-of-print books. You could stock up on summer reading through these things. So remind me of the title of the.
That one's called Roman Pictures. And it's by Percy Lubbock, Lubbock.
You have a new book that's just coming out or just came out, don't you?
Yeah, funny you should mention it. It's called The Years of Talking Dangerously. It's a collection of pieces mostly from Fresh Air on NPR, but also from the New York Times and other sources on the language of the last 5 years, technology, language, slang, and so forth, but particularly concentrating on the language of the declining years of the Bush era.
Ah, that's great. Bo, I'm looking forward to that one. I think I'm going to add that to my own summer reading list, and maybe a lot of our listeners will add it to theirs, too, and we'll get you lots of sales. We'll get you an immediate boost.
I sure hope so.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Jeff Nunberg's new book is The Years of Living Dangerously, and he'll be joining us in a special live taping of Philosophy Talk at the Mars Theater in San Francisco on July 19th.
And you can find more about our upcoming Mars shows on our website, philosophytalk.org.
I want to mention a couple more fiction titles that I've got on my summer list. One comes from my old friend Linda Paulson, who's a bigwig at Stanford Continuing Education, always a good source for books to read. And she says everybody reads Charlotte Bronte and Emily Bronte, but we ought to take another look at Anne Bronte, who didn't write such romantic stuff and is the least known of the three sisters, and she suggested especially The Tenant at Wildfell Hall. And I've got that. I'm sure Chris has that over at Pendragon. And then we had in the email and calls we got ahead of the show, we had a lot of mention of Jose Saramago, Nobel Prize winner at around the year 2000. His novel Blindness, which I read a couple years ago, and I just have started on a new one, The History of the Siege of Lisbon. These are very philosophical novels translated from the Portuguese, and they're really terrific.
So those are great suggestions, and we've got 1-800-525-9917 for your suggestions, and we've got a caller on the line, Michael in Sonoma. Welcome to Philosophy Talk, Michael.
Thank you.
So what's your suggestion?
Mr. Nunberg, thank you. I'd like to recommend a book by James P. Cass called Finite and Infinite Games. Which I classify right along with Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance as an influence on my thinking.
Wow. Is it a book about game theory?
No, it's not. I thought it was when I first got it, and then I read it, and it really surprised me. I'm going to read one of the sentences from the back. The finite player aims to win eternal life. The infinite player aims for eternal birth.
Oh, well, that's it.
And it's a very well-organized exploration of what is presented there. I don't know if that's my best choice of an example, but there you go.
Okay, well, that's intriguing. I'm not quite sure exactly what it means, but hey,
it takes a little work.
Yeah, but thanks for the suggestion, Michael. You're listening to Philosophy Talk. We're compiling a summer reading list.
We've talked about fiction and philosophy and gotten lots of great suggestions from our callers. In our next segment, we'll take suggestions for philosophically interesting works of nonfiction. You can join us by calling 1-800-525-9917. That's 1-800-525-9917. Or email us at comments@philosophytalk.org.
Nonfiction, plus your calls and emails when Philosophy Talk continues. It's our annual summer reading show. I'm Ken Taylor. This is Philosophy Talk, the program that questions everything.
Except your intelligence. 1-800-525-9917. That's 1-800-525-9917.
Or
email us at comments@philosophytalk.org. Our guest is Christopher Mia from Pendragon Books in Oakland, California.
So, Chris, there's an interesting book that I really want to read. I just recently found out about it. It's called Mothers of Believers. It's a novel of the birth of Islam. It's about the rise of Islam, about the life of the Prophet Muhammad, but told from the point of view of his third wife, I guess, Aisha, who was his 9-year-old, or some say maybe slightly older, but his young bride, who tells the story of their life together. And my question for you, well, there are a couple questions for you, but one question for you, it's a fictionalized biography of the prophet told from this point of view. But the events are real because it's really supposed to tell the story of the rise of Islam. Where would you put such a book? Is it fiction? Is it nonfiction?
We would probably put it in fiction, but that's our biggest selling section of the whole store.
So is that why? Is there any principle, which would say a fictionalized biography that purports to tell a real story but fictionalizes something? Is there some principle that would help you decide that?
Oh, I think maybe we might categorize it as something along the lines of historical fiction, perhaps.
Yeah, but I'm really eager to read this book. Do you know that book? Is it?
Actually, I don't. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not familiar with it either. We've got a very famous old book recommended by an emailer, Daniel, from Yahoo, and it's Gulliver's Travels, particularly the last chapter on Houyhnhnms. Now, I've read Gulliver's chapter, Gulliver's Travel, but I don't remember who the Houyhnhnms are. Do you, Christopher?
I can't recall that one, actually. Love the book, though.
Okay, so we're talking about summer reading with our guest Christopher Mia and another longtime friend of Philosophy Talk. Alison Gopnik is on the line next. Alison is a Berkeley psychology professor and author who specializes in early childhood development. Alison, so what are you reading these days?
Well, there's two books that I have been reading and that I think are wonderful books that people would be interested in. One of them is sort of in my field of developmental psychology. It's a book by Marjorie Taylor, and it's called Imaginary Companions and the Children Who Create Them.
Oh, wow, that sounds really cool. Imaginary. My son used to have when he was 3 years old, 4 years old, he had an imaginary wife, and he was married to her for 2 years before he grew out of this. But so this is a subject near and dear to my heart. But tell us more about the book.
Well, it turns out that almost two-thirds of children, sort of surprisingly, have an imaginary friend. And these imaginary friends are very consistent. They hang out just like your son's wife for 2 or 3 years, mostly with 3 and 4-year-olds. They're many of them are beautifully poetic. There's, Bainter who lives in the sea and eats sea anemones, and Station Feta who's made out of light. And just reading the book, Marjorie went out and just interviewed these children about their imaginary companions.
So is there something deep that we can learn from this book about the imagination and children? I mean, or is it just a fun read?
Well, it's both. So wild fictions, imagining strange, odd things that aren't really true, making up Station Feta and Gawk the Dinosaur and Charlie Ravioli and Dunzer, who is my own imaginary companion. It turns out that just seems to be part of our human nature and something that children are doing at the same time that they're learning about the world.
So having imaginary friends is not an unhealthy thing. I think when I was 3 and 4, I mostly imagined that people who were real were my friends when they weren't. Might have been a lot better to have an imaginary.
So what was that title and author again, just to remind our listeners?
The author is Marjorie Taylor. She's actually a professor at the University of Oregon. The book is called Imaginary Companions and the Children Who Create Them.
No, did you say you had a second book as well?
I do have a second book, and the second book is a book I've been reading by Neil Ferguson, who's a historian, called The Ascent of Money. It's a history of where very straightforward things that we take for granted, particularly money, come from. When did someone first get the idea of a mortgage or insurance or money itself or a bank? And he goes back to the 14th and 15th century and tracks how each of these increasingly more complicated and abstract economic institutions were actually invented by people. But it's depressing, of course, because given our current situation, one of the really deep philosophical questions, which has suddenly become incredibly practical, is money a real thing?
Right, exactly.
It seems to us that money is the great example of something that's a material entity, but it turns out that essentially all money is a bunch of agreements between people to do things.
So there's a thread running between your two suggestions, which is human invention. It's a good thing to have imaginary friends, and sometimes it's a good thing to have imaginary goods like money. So Alison, last time I saw you, you were hard at work on a new book that might be on our list for next year. You want to just give us a couple sentences about what that's going to be?
Well, that book will be out this summer. It'll be out August 4th. It's called The Philosophical Baby, What Children's Minds Tell Us About Truth, Love, and the Meaning of Life. And this is a book where I make an argument that I've talked about on Philosophy Talk before, which is that babies are actually more conscious than we are. So the last 30 years of developmental research have taught us that babies not just know more and learn more, but experience more, care more, imagine more than we ever would have thought before.
You know, I thought you were going to say the last 30 years of my life has taught us that I was more conscious as a baby than I am now, which is probably true. But you know what? You actually gave us 3 great suggestions. I didn't know your book was going to be out this summer. I've been looking forward to it for quite some bit, so I'm going to add that to our summer philosophical reading list, so you don't have to.
Oh, well, I was being modest.
Yes, I know.
But it's actually a fantastic book.
Yes, I know. So, Alice, thanks once again for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Alison Gopnik's book, The Philosophical Baby, is coming soon, and we'll be talking with Alison for a live taping of the show at the Marsh Theater on October 11th.
It's the Marsh's 20th anniversary, and we're proud to be taping a series of Philosophy Talk programs there this year. If you'd like to be part of the live audience, details are on our website, philosophytalk.org. And I should mention another book on my summer philosophical reading list is actually by Alison's brother, Adam Gopnik. That's Angels and Ages, a short book about Darwin, Lincoln, and modern life. You might wonder, why would anybody write a book about Darwin and Lincoln? Well, it's both of their bicentennial. They were born on exactly the same day, and they both were highly influential people. And Adam Gopnik, who writes for the New Yorker, says lots of cool things about both of them. And are people buying that book? Is that book making an impact?
Both Alison and Adam actually really popular.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Perish to the Moon was really great too, by Adam Gopnik.
So we've got an email. Our old friend Paul in San Francisco says we should wish Moe's Books in Berkeley a happy 50th birthday. Now, they're in Berkeley, so they're
Happy
an independent
birthday,
bookstore in Berkeley. Now, where exactly are you?
We're just on the border of Oakland. Just on the other side of the border from Berkeley.
College Avenue near the BART station.
Near the Rockridge BART station.
Oh, okay,
We've
terrific.
got lots of callers who want to join this conversation. Chris in San Francisco is on the line. Welcome to Philosophy Talk, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, so tell us your thoughts. What you're reading this summer?
My recommendation would be a book called Black Elk Speaks by, I think, John Niederhart is the name of the author. And it's just a really cool book. It's Black Elk was like one of the last, shaman of the Great Lakota tribe, and he just shares the philosophy of those people, and it's if you're camping or backpacking or out and outdoors, I think it'd be a pretty inspiring read.
I read that a long time ago. I think it's from the University of Nebraska Press. I'm not sure. It's a great book. Would make a great summer read. Stretches your mind a little bit.
There's a Nebraska theme running through some of these,
Yeah, that's right.
some of these books. Thanks a lot for the call. So, is this tell us you got a reaction to this book? You know this book?
I read Black Elk Speaks when I was in high school. I think a long time ago, but it's still popular. All the callers that have been calling in, getting books that have been still sellers, still popular.
So we've got another caller in the line. That's Zach in San Francisco. Welcome to Philosophy Talk, Zach.
Thank you.
So tell us your recommendation, Zach.
It is a book by Stephen Jay Gould, who is the zoologist. Passed away, I guess, a couple of years ago. But it's The Full House, and the subtitle is The Spread of Excellence from Plato to Darwin.
Oh,
is this his final book?
I don't know. It may be. I have a feeling it is, but I'm not quite sure.
Is it a big, complicated, thick book?
No, it's actually kind of short.
Oh, no, that's a different book then.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it about? Tell us more about what it's about.
Essentially, the premise is kind of completing the Darwinian revolution in the sense that, most people, I guess now, or I can't say that, but, evolution is gaining steam as, as a reality. And the misconception is that we place ourselves, humans, at the top of some kind of pathway towards excellence. And he's trying to dispel that myth by saying, our kind of the pathway towards humans is completely random.
Yeah.
So that our place at the top of this, imagined pedestal is pretty false.
It's a very comforting book for those of us that feel especially random most of the time.
There you go. Zach, thanks for the suggestion. There's a book that's forthcoming in February by a friend and former colleague, of mine, that's going to cause a stir because this is the bicentennial of Darwin, and Darwin is great gangbusters. Everybody believes in Darwin, except my friend Jerry Fodor, who is one of the great philosophers of the 20th century, but he's written this anti-Darwinian Screed, yeah. He's written articles about this stuff. It's been in the London Review, the Times Literary Supplement, and Dennett and Kitcher, and all these Darwinians have responded to him with vitriol. So it's going to cause a great stir, actually.
Yeah, but his argument is based really on the philosophy of content, philosophy of language, and most of these people that get upset with him don't really deal with that. But I want to mention just a couple more books suggested to me by my friends that are on my summer reading list. First, another one from Linda Paulson, 3 Cups of Tea by Greg Mortensen. and David Oliver Relin, which is the story of Greg Mortenson's efforts to build schools in Pakistan. Is that something you've got on your new books there, Christopher?
I would wager that was probably maybe one of the bestsellers of the year.
Oh,
really?
terrific.
Why?
Okay.
What's so great about it? What's so great about it?
It's a really affirming memoir of things that are going on, and it's very informative. And it's going to be a book that you're going to remember for many, many years.
Another friend of mine, Valerie Phillips, recommended Sarah and Eleanor by Jan Potker, the daughter of Sarah Delano Roosevelt and her daughter-in-law Eleanor Roosevelt. I know a little bit about that story, but I haven't read a full book on it. Is that another one that's been selling over there?
Actually, that one I don't know. I'll have to take a look at that one myself.
So,
and then finally, I should mention I'm going to read Judith Butler's Gender Trouble, because she's another one that's coming up on our Marsh.
Yeah, but we're going to talk to her about politics and violence and war. But you got any final recommendations for us that we haven't gotten to that you might want to add?
Actually, I like during the summertime. I mean, I'm a big fan of graphic novels, and they're a really big deal right at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But The Beats, a graphic history, which is put together by Paul Bewley and a host of other writers and artists together to put together a graphic history of the Beat movement.
Well, that sounds really cool. I have to put that on my summer reading list. So, Christopher, this has been a wonderful conversation. We got lots of ideas out there, lots of books for folks to read, but we've come to near the end of our time. So on that note, I'm going to thank you for joining us. It's been really good.
It's been my pleasure.
Our guest has been Christopher Mia. He's manager of Pendragon Books in Oakland, California.
We're going to put a comprehensive list of all the books we've mentioned today on our website. That is, you can go to philosophytalk.org, and if you didn't get the books that sounded interesting written down, you will find all the information you need.
Also, you can check out our Facebook page. We've got nearly 2,000 fans on that Facebook page, so you become one of them.
You can also download podcasts of our program from our website. And for the final word, we're going to turn to the fastest read on the bookshelf, Ian Scholl's The 60-Second Philosopher.
Ian Scholl's, why does summer get a reading list? It used to be that summer was vacation time and therefore we had time to read. But now people either work all the time or don't have jobs at all. Unemployment means time to read books, of course, but no money to buy them. And in this summer reading list dream world, you're supposed to bring books to the beach. Has anybody ever actually done this? A magazine maybe, but a book? I know I don't read at the beach. I hate the beach. It's sandy and hot, I get sunburned, and it's too bright to focus on a page. And who reads anymore anyway, spring, summer, winter, or fall? We do a lot of skimming, scanning, texting, data mining, tweeting, and mashups. But are those activities really reading? It's like calling a coma a refreshing nap. On the bright side, Jeff Bezos of Amazon has unleashed Kindle on the world. The electronic text reader has been selling fairly briskly, apparently. One of the aims behind its invention, Jeff Bezos wrote in a letter to shareholders, was the hope that Kindle will, quote, gradually and incrementally move us over years into a world with longer spans of attention, providing a counterbalance to the recent proliferation of info-snacking tools, unquote. That sounds admirable, but it also sounds more like getting a vaccination than reading. I like to munch on info as much as the next trivia-craving geek, but I also like to curl up with a book now and then. Well, I don't curl, really. It's more of a hunching motion. Some might call it a hunker. I don't see how hunkering is improved by putting a machine in between me and what I'm reading. What if I drop the Kindle? I drop a book, I pick it up, I move on. I drop a Kindle, I have to send it to the shop. I know the kind of people who get excited by this sort of thing are very excited about Kindle, especially by its potential apps. Text-to-speech, making digital notes, sharing text with others, finding a quotation you want with the push of a button, multimedia presentations like having the movie of the book right there with the book, displaying other books inspired by the book, songs inspired by the book, video games based on the book, interviews with authors, making of documentaries, the sneak peek at the end of the book so you can see who the killer is feature, musical fonts that enhance the mood of whatever it is you're reading. All of that stuff will probably be amazing, but I'm a little exhausted just thinking about it. When I read a book, I don't want to multitask. I don't want to social network. I just want to hunker and be left alone in silence. Well, with all the bells and whistles going on in the world, I haven't had that much time for non-work-related reading lately. I can recommend Anathem, the latest novel from Neil Stephenson. Appropriately, since this is Philosophy Talk, the novel is a huge thought experiment, the nature of which I cannot reveal without giving away the story. Not only is the novel a philosophical novel, its hero is a philosopher. The book is set in an alternative world in which philosophers are segregated from the rest of society and engage each other in what are more or less secular co-ed monasteries. So there's a lot of thinking that goes on, but for those who crave action, there are also mysterious space invaders who may or may not have the power to end life as we know it. I found Anathem to be a very well-written rip-snorter, and at over 900 pages, its heft provided some much-needed calisthenic value as well. I ask you, can Kindle build strength in your upper arms? I rest my case. I gotta go.
The tongue-twisting wisdom of Ian Scholl's, the 60-Second Philosopher.
Philosophy Talk is a presentation of Ben Manila Productions and the trustees of Leland Stanford Junior University, copyright 2009.
Our executive producer is David Demarest.
Our production coordinator is Devin Strolovich. Our directors of research are Daniel Elstein and Cole Leahy. Lael Weiss is our webmaster.
Also thanks to Zoe Corneli, Merle Kessler, Corey Goldman, Jennifer Jensen, and Mark Stone.
Support for Philosophy Talk comes from the Templeton Foundation. Also from various groups at Stanford University, the Friends of Philosophy Talk, and the members of KALW San Francisco, where our program originates.
The views expressed or misexpressed in this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of Stanford University or of our other funders.
The conversation continues on our website, philosophytalk.org. I'm John Perry.
And I'm Ken Taylor. Thank you for listening.
And thank you for thinking.